Hey guys, I'm Janet on occasion, and today we're on the Total War Warhammer II Battle Replay. So check it, Lizardmen. Don't see them often anymore. They're really neglected lately. I guess it's because, I don't know, they haven't had an update recently. And so, yeah, no one really tends to pick them. You know, there's a lot of new shiny things to play with, so poor Lizardmen, they're sort of on the bench for, you know, most of the time now, which is a pity, because they're still really good. So I thought I'd showcase them a bit. So I'll be playing a few Lizardmen battles in the next few days. So, I'm against Skaven. So, Saurus Warriors, they'll kill any Skaven pretty happily, honestly. They'll do pretty great. Got to watch out for sort of rat ogres and artillery and things, but honestly, you don't need to be too expensive with the front line against Skaven. Saurus Warriors will be able to kill, you know, slaves with a zero effort, clan rat pretty damn easily, and they'll hold against storm vermin and things. So, they'll do alright, honestly. You don't need to be too flashy. You don't really need Temple Guard or anything like that. You don't need to go too elite. You want to go wider, if anything. You don't want to get overwhelmed. If you come in with all Temple Guard, that's most of your money gone, and you just get completely surrounded and bombarded with artillery and spells. So, yeah, they go a bit cheaper. So, Saurus Warriors, they'll do the job pretty happily. I've also got a couple of skinks on either side, just to, you know, just a bit of extra units to throw at things. I've got Master Mundi. He's on his palanquin. And this is going to help. He's got a bit of missile resist on that thing, and he's a smaller target, so it's pretty good. Zlak, quite expensive to have to charge in, and, you know, makes him quite vulnerable. It's very easy to go all in on someone like Zlak. Poor Zlak. Anyway, so I'm going to keep him out of combat, and he can just use his spells. He can still get a ton of damage done, even without Zlak, so yeah, fine. Also, you can see I've got an Ancient Stegodon. I love the Ancient Stegodon in this matchup. It's so good. I mean, if we look at his melee here, huge armor-piercing anti-infantry. So that's going to be doing a ton of work. If he's got any sword and board storm vermin, he can just run straight through them and just stomp them. He also causes terror, so that's going to do a load of work. And all these skinks on top of him, they're going to be doing a hell of a lot of work. If you see here, just boom. There's a huge amount of missile damage, and that's, you know, 8 shots per volley, so they're going to be shooting at different targets. So, Skaven, that have just a ton of guys running around all the time, just each shot from that volley is going to kill a Skaven pretty happily. So it's pretty great. This is going to be very, very good. I really do like these guys. I just think they're so useful against Skaven. And massive big target that they're going to want to surround and, you know, beat down. So that will actually be an advantage for me. So we'll see how that goes. So also here I have some Skink Skirmishers already under attack because, you know, against Skaven, so of course they got Gutter Runners. So Skink Skirmishers, I love these guys. They're really cheap. It forces them to have to react to you because a lot of the armor-piercing units that the Skaven have tend to actually be really lightly armoured. So Skink Skirmishers will actually get very good value, and they become a threat for very cheap. So you really want to deal with them. But they're so kitey and annoying, it just wastes people's time. It's great. You gotta deal with them, and you gotta throw things at them, and they're gonna soak up all your time. So I love these guys. They're just such a cheap way to throw a spanner in the works. Also, way in the back, you see I have these 3 Pterodon Riders with Fire Leech Bowlers. These guys are basically for destroying artillery. That's the plan. They'll destroy artillery and then they'll move on to other targets. Which, there'll be plenty of targets for them, you know. The splash damage from the Fire Leech Bowlers, they'll do a lot of damage to very weak Skaven units, so they can just keep blowing things up everywhere and, you know, helping whittle things down. So they're very useful, and they're hard to deal with, honestly. They're kind of a nuisance to deal with, so I like it. Also, a bit cheap, but, you know, I haven't played Lizardmen in a while, so I'm playing try-hard here. So I have 2 Skink Chiefs. So these guys, again, they can get caught out, to be honest. I mean, same as the Pterodon Riders, things like Howling Warp Gale is a bit of a nightmare. And Warp Lightning Cannons, and actually what I really like, if I bring Skrull because the Skaven, I love just to hit them with a Liber Bubonicus when they're, you know, sort of at half health. You know, a couple of volleys from a Warp Lightning Cannon, Liber Bubonicus, and it'll die before they can heal it up. So that really helps, just shut it down early before it can waste all of its ammo, because they have a lot of ammo. Let's have a look. Yeah, 81 shots these guys have, which is just ludicrous. But, you know, it's not armor-piercing, but then, again, a lot of the targets they're going to be shooting at don't have a huge amount of armor, and the poison is still going to help regardless. So these guys, really useful, and that's 2 more charges of Cold-Blooded that I can use on my troops. So pretty great. Now, my Skaven opponent here. See, he's got a front line of Clan Rats with spears and shields. Shields important here, because they're obviously going to get, you know, sort of kited about by these guys. So really you want to be chasing them and just let them, you know, waste their time shooting something cheap. So don't throw things like the Clan Rats in the front line, because the Saurus Warriors will deal with them. I think he needs to pull out. So he's also got a couple of Rat Ogres, which is very handy. These guys, they have some mass, so they can sort of block dinosaurs a bit, and it'll let things like the Poison Globadiers get some really good damage in. These guys have devastating amount of damage there and a load of AP. It's rough. You really don't want to be shot at by these guys for long. So he's also got some Plague Monks. Plague Monks will actually do okay against the Saurus Warriors. He's got some Stormburn with Halberds. Good to have that anti-large and that armor piercing. So that's pretty nice. He's also got Tretch. Who brings Tretch? It's great, isn't it? But Tretch I actually quite like. He's got anti-large, which is kind of nice. Huge melee defense, so he's going to hold for a long time. He's going to shrug off a lot of damage, so I quite like him. I think he's pretty good. So nice to see something a little bit different. So he's got gutter runners with poison. These guys were just completely outmatched, the skirmishers. I mean, look at this. They've taken so much damage already. These guys have barely taken a scratch. Over here, he's got a load of slaves just guarding his artillery. And this, I think, is a big mistake, having all your artillery in one place. You want to spread them out. So he's got one warp lightning cannon, obviously great for the big dinos. And the plague claw catapult, great for temple guard and saurus warriors. But you know, you really want it for temple guard. These things aren't cheap. But I didn't bring any temple guard, so I've kind of denied him a decent target, which is definitely worthwhile. And he's also got a warlock engineer, so howling warp gale will be a factor. But here, I'm coming up behind him, and I'm basically just going to bomb this whole thing. And they're just going to lose all their artillery crews very quickly. So here you can see I'm getting some really just cheap damage on these rat ogres. I've charged straight in with the ancient stegodon, so all of his halberds are trying to basically get on top of this ancient stegodon. Here we'll see the poison globadiers will start opening fire. It does a ton of damage, but I'm just going to charge them. The ancient stegodon does so much damage in melee against things like this, so they're really struggling already, and all these halberds are trying to get on top of them. So that's great. I've caused very expensive units to all blob up around, you know, a target they deem as very important. So that's pretty good for me. So I do actually use an apotheosis on him to keep him going a little longer. So always nice, you know, keep his leadership up if his health is higher. That's nice. But here, rat ogres are pushed through, and they're actually going to go for the skirmishers, which I think is a mistake. These rat ogres need to get in here, maybe get onto Mazda Mundi, get on top of these guys. Over here, artillery crews all shattered because there's just too much. They got howling warp gale, but they can still throw their fire-leech bowlers. So you can see all this stuff got completely tattered. The gutter runners, they can do a lot of damage to them though. Under sustained fire, they do not want to get shot at by that stuff. So I'm running away. So here, use a lovely banishment, and you see it just crushes these storm vermin. It didn't even get a direct hit. If it had come down the hill, that would have been 2 units completely wiped out. But as it stands, it's enough to terrify them away. So that's pretty huge. Curse the Midnight Wind on them as well, just so the Saurus Warriors can get more value. Because Saurus Warriors don't have the best armor piercing. So if you can lower the armor of what you're attacking, brilliant. So the Saurus Warriors are able to capitalize there. A load of skirmishers, just, you know, doing their thing. So that's fun. Here, you can see the Poison Wing Globadiers, they just got completely trampled by my Stegodon. And the Stegodons here, with their missile attacks, those are going to be doing a lot of damage to all these gutter runners. So also got the Skink Chief shooting into these guys. Tretch is on the move, so I'm going to get on top of him. And just so much stuff that he can't really deal with anymore. He doesn't have the Warp Lightning Cannons, he doesn't have Skrulk to use, you know, things like Lebubonicus on this stuff, so he's kind of out of answers for these guys very early. And over here, 2 units of rat ogres just chasing down skinks. That is not where you want them. You want them up here doing some work. Here you can see there are some Stormburn with halberds just fighting Saurus Warriors. They're going to be evenly matched. They'll just fight for hours, honestly. It's not great for either of us here. Well, it's better for me because I'm able to round up the rest of his army, I suppose. While these Stormburn with halberds would be great amongst this fight, you know, trying to keep this stuff alive. So it's a bit rough. It's a bit rough for him. He's got some other storm vermin coming back though, but these rat ogres, they've wasted their time chasing off skinks. He needed them in here to help get rid of the you know, expensive things like the ancient stegodon. So it's very rough. But of course, running off that way, they are out of the way of all my skirmishers, which is pretty ridiculous when you think about it. You know, the 3 units of Pterodon Riders, the 2 skink skirmishers, and these other 2, sorry, the skink chiefs and the 2 skink skirmishers. All of this stuff is brilliant at killing rat ogres. So we'll see here. I'm going to start shooting into one of the units. Going to go for the damage one first. Just try and finish that off. And you can see it's getting so much damage in. It's pretty brutal. And everything else is getting chased off just by, you know, Saurus Warriors running around. And things are starting to shatter quite quickly. Here, you know, the ancient Stegodon chasing away his heroes is rough. It is rough. So there we go. Pretty textbook, honestly. You know, I had all the tools, and I denied him the tools very early on. So, you know, whereas you think, yeah, Warp Lightning Cannon is perfect. Perfect pick. Then get a lot of damage in. You've got to keep him safe somehow. And unfortunately, he just didn't spot the Pterodon Riders until it was too late. And I had just had him busy, you know, with my other units. The Skink Skirmishers being a pain, his Gutter Runners ran forward to try and deal with them. So I was just giving him targets to sort of waste his time and, you know, force him to run at the wrong things. So I love Skink Skirmishers for that. You know, they didn't get a huge amount of kills, but they got a lot of damage in to very expensive units, you know, being the Rat Ogres. And he needed these guys supporting his front line. He just needed them there, you know, to try and stop the charge from the Ancient Stegodon. But no, he just blobbed up with all of the armor-piercing anti-large that he had left, but it wasn't enough to stop me from getting on top of the artillery, you know, his Poison Wing Globadiers. And that's where things start to fall apart. That's the awkward thing with Skaven. Everything has a very singular purpose. So, you know, if you have something that you want to keep, You go, right, what is going to kill that thing? Oh, it's those. And you can just, if you wipe them out, then suddenly they have no answer to it. So the Ancient Stegodon, he charged in as bait. I'm sure he was pretty confident seeing how much damage he did to the Ancient Stegodon initially, but that just gave me a beautiful spot to place down a banishment, and his whole front line fell apart after that. It's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal. I don't know what he could have done differently, really. Maybe just more Poison Wind Globadiers would have been nice, because they're not that expensive, honestly. You know, so that way if one is getting attacked, there's another one supporting, because I can't get on top of everything at once. That's the thing. You want these overlapping zones of fire. But he allowed everything to blow up. Everything expensive. All the dinosaur killers were around the dinosaur, and when Mazdamundi's on the field, you cannot do that. So pretty rough. Pretty rough. But yeah, a lot of fun though. I think Lizardmen have some great advantages over the Skaven in a matchup like this. It's a lot of fun, and it's pretty rough, you know, especially with, you know, all the flying units and stuff. It's brutal. It's brutal. So guys, if you enjoyed this, please do comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day, guys.